This happened a few months ago, in January. It was one of the coldest winter nights. I was in my cozy apartment, sipping coffee and working on my graphic design projects. I wanted a peaceful evening. I needed it. I had been trying to keep my mind off my recent breakup. The night wore on. I was feeling groggy when I heard a gentle knock at my door. At first, I thought I imagined it. The knocking came again, soft and almost pleading. I hesitated but got up anyway. I opened the door, and there was Lucy, my old childhood friend. I hadn't seen her in years. She looked disheveled, with wild eyes and snowflakes melting in her hair. "Can I come in? I need a place to stay," she said. I didn't think twice. I let her in, not even questioning how she found me. I made us hot tea. It was nice to see her again, but something felt off. As we settled down, I noticed her mumbling to herself. I shrugged it off. Maybe she'd had a rough day. But then she leaned closer and whispered, "I can hear them, Evelyn. They're calling for us." My heart started racing. I didn't know what to say. The walls in my apartment felt alive. I told myself I was imagining things. The whispers grew louder, swirling in the air. Shadows flickered at the corners of my vision. I looked at Lucy. She seemed almost different, staring at the walls with wide eyes. "Do you remember our old games?" she asked, her voice distant. I nodded, not wanting to derail the conversation. I recalled laughter, but now the room felt heavy. A chill crept in, more than just the winter cold. The whispers became urgent, pleading. I felt disoriented. At one point I could swear I heard my name. I couldn't tell you how long this went on, but I knew something was wrong. I was scared. When morning finally came, I woke up on the couch. The sun was bright and hurt my eyes. I looked around, confused. Lucy was gone. My door stood wide open, and outside, fresh snow blanketed everything. I noticed a pair of footprints leading away from my door, vanishing into the white. I felt uneasy. Did she really come? Or was it all a dream? The more I thought, the more questions swirled in my mind. Why was she here? What did she mean by, "They're calling for us"? As I looked outside, the city looked different. It felt strange and empty. I couldn't shake the feeling that something wasn't right. I remembered her eyes, the urgent whispers, and the way the walls felt alive. I keep asking myself, who was Lucy really? Did she knock on my door that night? Or was she something else? The icy chill of that winter night lingers in my thoughts, waiting for answers that may never come. The next day, the sun shone bright, but I felt cold inside. I couldn't shake the memory of Lucy. My mind spun with questions. I needed answers. And I had one person in mind who might help. I grabbed my coat and headed out. It was still freezing. The streets looked barren, with patches of snow crunched underfoot. I walked to my neighbor's house, an elderly woman named Mrs. Thompson, who had lived in the building longer than I had. She knew everyone in the area, including Lucy. When I knocked, she opened the door with a curious expression. Her gaze flicked to my face, taking in my frazzled appearance. "Is everything all right, Evelyn?" she asked, concern lining her voice. "Not really," I admitted. "Do you remember Lucy? From when we were kids?" Her eyes widened, and she nodded slowly. "Yes. Lucy. She used to play with you all the time." "What about her?" "I saw her last night. She came to my apartment. But something felt off." "Did you know what she has been up to? Why she would come here?" Mrs. Thompson hesitated. "She has not. She hasn't been around here in years. Last I heard, she was living in another state. There were rumors about her, changes, you know?" I felt a knot tighten in my stomach. "What kind of changes?" "I heard she got mixed up in some strange things. Not just the normal troubles young people face, but something darker. I've seen her walking around at strange hours, talking to herself. Once I thought I saw her looking for something, or someone." As she spoke, my heart raced. "Someone? What do you mean?" She has been searching, Evelyn. This connection she feels. It's not just to our old games. There's something pulling at her. The way she spoke caused my skin to crawl. Do you think she is in trouble? I mean, what do you mean by dark? Mrs. Thompson leaned closer, lowering her voice. This town has its secrets. Be careful. If she comes back, don't let her in without thinking. I stepped back, feeling as if the ground was shifting beneath me. But she is my friend. I can't just turn her away. Exactly. You need to figure out what she wants, Evelyn. Before it's too late. As I left her house, my thoughts were a jumble, and a creeping fear settled in my chest. I didn't want to believe that Lucy could be involved in something sinister. But then I remembered those whispers, the urgency in Lucy's voice. Then everything changed. When I arrived back home, I noticed it right away. The door was slightly ajar. I was sure I'd locked it this time. My hands felt clammy as I pushed the door open wider. That's when I saw it. There, lying on my kitchen table, was a small, old-fashioned music box. I didn't own this. It had to belong to Lucy. I approached it cautiously, and for a moment my heart pounded in my ears. Should I open it? As I reached out, a chilling breeze swept through the room. The whispers returned. My skin prickled. I wasn't alone. And then I heard a soft voice calling my name once more. I barely had time to process the voice before I turned around, adrenaline racing through me. Lucy? I called out, my voice barely above a whisper. No answer came, just the echoes of my own uncertainty hanging in the air. I approached the music box again, hesitant yet drawn to it. It was crafted from dark wood, with intricate carvings that seemed familiar somehow. I opened it slowly, and an old tune spilled forth, haunting and sentimental. In that moment, my mind raced back to our childhood, to long-forgotten summer days when laughter filled the air. But now, everything felt different. As the melody played, I noticed something. I could see faint shadows shifting in the corners of my kitchen, shapes flitting just out of reach. I took a step back, clenching my fists at my sides. Show yourself! I managed to shout, trying to sound braver than I felt. The music quieted, but the shadows persisted. They twisted and morphed, swirling together to form a figure. My heart sank as I recognized a silhouette that mirrored Lucy's. Evelyn, the voice whispered, laced with desperation. It was her voice, yet it felt distant, almost from a different reality. Lucy! Where have you been? What is happening? Panic painted my tone as I stepped closer, but uncertainty pulled me to a stop. Are you all right? Help me, she said, her voice trembling. I need you to understand. They're coming for us. Who? I felt my stomach drop, the shadows growing darker around us. What do you mean? You shouldn't be here, Mrs. Thompson said. I know what she said. The figure flickered, appearing more defined for a moment. But it's not just me. There is a force, something that ties us together. You have to remember. Remember what? I could feel tears prickling at the corners of my eyes, frustration and fear swirling within me. This doesn't make sense. Just trust the music box, she said, her voice fading as if the shadows were pulling her back. Please trust me. And then she was gone, leaving just the echo of her words hanging in the air. My breath quickened as I fought the urge to scream. I closed the music box, hoping the sound might somehow reel her back, but it only felt like sealing a tomb. I was alone again. The shadows receded, and the room felt suddenly cold. I sank into a chair, my head spinning. I hadn't known what to expect, but now I felt trapped. The moment felt pivotal. I had to act. But how? I remembered Mrs. Thompson's warning. This was bigger than a lost friend. I needed to find out what Lucy was chasing. I grabbed my phone and took a deep breath, scrolling through my contacts until I found the name I dreaded. Tess. If Lucy's other half was out there, where would she lead me? Tess answered on the second ring. Evelyn? What's wrong? I need help. It's about Lucy. I think she's in trouble, I said, forcing my voice steady. What? I thought she moved away. Something's not right. Can you meet me? Of course. Where? I hesitated, glancing back at the music box. At our old playground. The swings by the big tree. Okay, I'll be there soon. As soon as I hung up, something nagged at me. I glanced back at the music box. Lucy's voice echoed in my mind. It was time to dig deeper into whatever she was mixed up in, even if it meant confronting the darkness I dreaded. And as I left my apartment, a sense of urgency surged in me. Something was stirring in the shadows, and I was about to walk right into it. The playground felt surreal under the evening sky, its familiar silhouette outlined against the dimming light. I arrived early, the swings swaying gently in the breeze, a reminder of carefree days long gone. The laughter of children echoed in my mind, but it felt like a ghost of what used to be. My heart raced as I waited for Tess, anxiety creeping in like the encroaching darkness. I fished out my phone and stared at the screen, hesitating. I wanted to make sure I had more answers than questions before I spoke to Tess. But as Lucy's last words echoed in my mind, I felt the weight of uncertainty crushing me. What force was out there? What was I supposed to remember? The sound of footsteps broke my reverie. Tess approached, a concerned frown knitting her brows together. Evelyn! You look pale, she said, scanning my face. What's going on? I swallowed hard, forcing down the knot in my stomach. It's Lucy. I don't know how to explain it. I just saw her sort of. Sort of? What do you mean? Her eyes widened. There was this music box, I stammered, unfolding the bizarre sight in my mind. And I heard her voice. She said I need to help her. But it's like she's trapped or something. Trapped? Tess echoed, looking skeptical. I nodded. The shadows in my kitchen, I don't know what they were, but they shifted into her shape. And then she said, I can't believe this, Tess interrupted. You're saying you saw Lucy like a ghost? Not exactly a ghost, I said quickly. It felt real. More like she's connected to something. I don't know what. A heavy silence lingered between us. I could see her skepticism, and it stung. Evelyn, you know how Lucy was. She had a vivid imagination. Maybe you just had a dream? I shook my head. This felt different. And when I tried to close the music box, it felt like I was sealing the door on her. It felt wrong. Tess shifted uneasily, glancing at the swings, then back to me. Okay, what now? Do you want to look for this music box? Or yes, we need to find it. I gripped her arm, adrenaline fueling my resolve. I think it holds the key to whatever's going on. As we walked toward my place, I struggled to ignore the rising anxiety twisting in my gut. My mind raced with possibilities and dangers. I hoped I was doing the right thing. When we entered my apartment, the air felt heavy. The music box sat silently on the table, untouched since I had closed it. I stepped closer, the intricate carving seeming to glimmer in the dim light. Tess followed, watching me with an intensity that made me uncomfortable. Are you sure about this? She asked softly. Not at all. I took a steadying breath. But if Lucy's in trouble, I can't just ignore it. With a determined shake of my head, I opened the music box again. As the tune began to play, I held my breath, bracing myself. The shadows around the room flickered to life, and for a brief moment, I thought I could hear Lucy's voice weaving through the melody. Evelyn, it whispered again, clearer this time, stronger, as if reaching out across a vast distance. And just as quickly, everything went dark. Tess was right there next to me, her eyes wide with fear. What just happened? I had no answer, but I felt the air shift, and a new presence filled the room. I turned to see a figure emerging from the shadows, and my heart raced with dread. Someone was not just a memory anymore. Someone was here. The figure stepped forward, its features remaining obscured by shadows. I strained my eyes, hoping to see more, praying it was just my imagination playing tricks on me. Who are you? I managed to whisper, the words barely escaping my lips. Tess squeezed my arm tighter, her breath hitching in her throat. Evelyn, we should get out of here, she urged, her voice cracking. No, I said, surprising myself with my own insistence. We can't run. We have to find out what this is. I didn't know where the courage came from. Maybe it was a wild hope that Lucy might still be somehow connected. The shadows shifted again, moving so fluidly it was hard to tell if I was looking at a person or something else entirely. It took another step closer. My heart thundered in my chest, but for some reason, all I could focus on was the intricate music box still playing softly behind me. The figure hesitated, and I could see the outline of a face, somewhat familiar yet twisted by the darkness. Evelyn, it said, its voice eerily calm, layered with an echo that sent chills down my spine. Lucy? I gasped, taking a half step forward. My vision locked onto the shadows for any hint of recognition. It's not her, Evelyn, Tess said urgently, dragging me back. It can't be. But the voice continued. Help me. It was neither a plea nor a command. It felt like a bond, a tether pulling me closer. My instincts screamed to run, but I couldn't tear my gaze away. Help you with what? I asked, trying to sound more confident than I felt. I am lost. The figure shrugged its shoulders, and for a moment, the shadows receded just enough for me to see a glimpse of long hair. Definitely Lucy, yes. You need to let me in. Trust me. Trust? Tess echoed, now visibly trembling. Evelyn, we can't trust whatever that is. Maybe I was drawn by the words, or perhaps it was the anguish in Lucy's semblance I felt deep within me. What do you mean? I pressed on, my heart racing. What do you want? Balance, the figure whispered. In this realm I am trapped. It gestured vaguely around the room, and I felt the weight of my surroundings shift. I sensed an unseen force pulling at the edges of my reality. What are you talking about? I asked, trying to maintain my composure. I can show you, it replied, a hint of desperation creeping into its voice. But you must open the box again. Silence hung like a veil between us. The music box had moved from a mere object to something much more, a key to releasing whatever spirit lingered between the realms. But at what cost? Evelyn, no! You can't! Tess shouted, her voice breaking through my fog of indecision. But as if responding to my silent plea, the whispers of the music box danced in my ears. I caught a glimpse of movement in the corner of my vision, something darting behind the shadows. An instinct told me that my choice had to be made quickly. All right, I said finally, feeling a rush of fear and exhilaration. Let us see what you can show me. With a swift motion, I reached for the lid of the music box again, willing myself to believe in Lucy's promise. Just then, I felt a chilly breeze, and the shadows began to swirl violently. The meaning of the choice quickly became clear. I had no idea what would happen next. I opened the lid, and the melody poured out, echoing in the confined space like a siren's call. Instantly, the shadows thickened, enveloping Tess and me in a dark embrace. I could barely see my own hands in front of my face, but I sensed the figure moving closer, growing bolder as the music played on. Evelyn, stop! Tess shouted, her voice panicked. A harsh tugging sensation pulled at me, like I was being torn between two worlds. Somewhere deep within me, instinct shouted that this was a mistake. In an instant, the shadows flickered, and with a loud crackle, the music box's melody shifted. It wasn't just any tune. It felt like secrets were weaving through the notes, a tapestry of lost memories and broken promises. Then, the room around us faded. The dark morphed into a different setting. I found myself standing in a lush garden under a sky tinged with twilight. Flowers bloomed in vibrant colors I had never seen before, and the air was thick with a sweet, intoxicating fragrance. What is happening? I turned to Tess, but she was nowhere to be found. Panic surged through me as I spun around. Tess! I yelled, my voice thick with fear. But all I heard was the gentle rustling of leaves in the breeze. I was alone now, and the figure emerged again, somehow more present here than in the room. Evelyn, it said, the shadows flickering across its face, revealing features that were unmistakably Lucy's. You needed to see this. See what? Where are we? My voice trembled, confusion pulsing through me as I took a step back, ready to retreat. There's truth buried here, Lucy, if it truly was her, explained, her voice now a soft whisper amidst the chimes of the music. You must understand the connection. It's the reason I called for you. Connection? What connection? I demanded, feeling the ground beneath me pulse, a heartbeat that resonated with my own. Before she could answer, the air shifted. The garden began to wilt, colors draining away. The once lively walls of greenery turned gray, and dark tendrils of shadow crept in from all sides. Evelyn, listen! You need to gather the pieces, she insisted as she reached out a hand. This place is a fragment of a past that is still holding me captive. You have the power to change it, but you have to act fast. I hesitated, the weight of her words sinking in. Was this truly Lucy? Or some twisted echo of her spirit? The last thing I remembered was the box, but now everything I thought I knew was being challenged. Let me find Tess first, I shouted, desperation clawing at my insides. But that only seemed to encourage the darkness. The garden twisted violently, the shadows tightening their grip around us. You can't save her if you can't save me, Lucy pleaded, her form flickering like a dying light. My heart raced as another wave of shadows surged forward, pulling me deeper into this nightmare. It was a cry for help, but I felt it morph into something else, something sinister. I felt like I was drowning in my decision, the walls of reality collapsing. Please, Evelyn, Lucy's voice echoed in a haunting rhythm. Open your eyes. They have to see. And then, darkness engulfed me completely, swallowing every sound, every light. I fell into nothingness, heart pounding as a chilling whisper brushed against my ear. Wake up, it said, and I realized I might not have the choice to answer. Everything went black. I gasped as I jolted upright, slamming my hands against the bed to steady myself. The air was thick with the scent of damp wood and lingering panic. I looked around, frantic, my heart still racing. It took me a moment to realize I was back in my room, nothing but shadows dancing around me. I blinked, trying to shake off the remnants of the nightmare. But Lucy's face lingered in my thoughts, her desperate plea echoing like a distant memory. I was still reeling from the sudden switch from the vibrant garden to this familiar yet alien space. Tess! I shouted, scrambling out of bed. My voice was hoarse from the shock, and I felt a knot form in my stomach. What had happened to Tess? I reached for my phone, fingers trembling. It was still dark outside, but the world inside my head felt spun out of control. I dialed Tess's number. My breath quickened as the phone rang and rang. Come on, pick up! Nothing. Just a hollow silence. Then, all at once, I noticed something on my desk. The music box. It sat there innocently, and my heart sank into my stomach. I knew I had shut it. I edged closer, my pulse quickening. It was closed, but the faintest hint of melodies drifted from it. I opened the box, hesitantly. Just a soft hum, but it entwined with the night air like a whisper, inviting yet terrifying. I could have sworn I sensed movement in the shadows around me, creeping closer as if I wasn't alone. Panic gripped me again, and I slammed the lid shut. Just as I turned to the door, a sudden crash reverberated through the house. Shocked, I stumbled back. What the hell was that? Adrenaline kicked in. My instincts screamed for me to run. But I couldn't leave without knowing what had happened to Tess. I needed answers, and the thought of venturing into the dark hall made my stomach churn. Gathering my courage, I grabbed a flashlight from my nightstand. The beam cut through the dark, illuminating the old walls. I never liked those shadows. It felt like they were watching me, waiting for something. As I stepped into the hallway, the house creaked underfoot. I meant to glide past my parents' room, but the door cracked open, just a sliver. I paused, heart racing. Evelyn? My father's voice was thick with sleep, drawn out and confused. Is everything okay? Yeah, it's fine, I called back, forcing a calmness I didn't feel. I had to move. I crept down to the living room, where the crashing sound had come from. When I reached the entrance, I felt a chill creeping down my spine. The front door stood ajar, swaying slightly as if beckoning me. I could hear the wind whistling softly, but something about the scene felt wrong. That's when I saw it. A flash of movement outside, a figure lurking just beyond the threshold. My heart thudded painfully in my chest. I stepped back, ready to rush upstairs, but something held me to the ground. I wasn't alone. I sensed it, something dark, something watching me from the shadows. Before I could react, the door swung open with a force that knocked me off balance. And then, silence. I held my breath, straining to see into the night. What was out there? I couldn't move. The silence felt heavy, pressing down on my chest. The door stood wide open, inviting and terrifying. I glanced quickly to my left and right, hoping to catch any sign of the figure I had seen. Nothing. Just darkness. Then, a chill swept over me, creeping underneath my skin. I shook my head, trying to clear my thoughts. I needed to find Tess. With every fiber of my being, I felt she was connected to whatever was happening. I stepped closer to the door, the flashlight beam flickering against the night. "Hello?" I called out, each word trembling more than the last. "Is anyone there?" No response. Just the soft rustle of leaves in the wind. Gritting my teeth, I took a step outside, the cool air biting at my skin. As I crossed the threshold, a sense of urgency surged through me. The porch creaked beneath my weight, but it felt like the sound echoed into the vast nothingness beyond. I moved slowly, eyes darting around, scanning the yard. The moonlight cast long shadows that twisted in all directions. I focused on the space beside the tree line, the familiar spot where Tess often sat during late-night chats. Maybe she was there, waiting for me. But what if I wasn't alone? Just as I turned to head back inside, I caught something in the corner of my eye, movement again. I froze, heart pounding. There it was, a shift in the darkness, slipping between the trees. I swallowed hard. "Who's there?" Silence answered me once more. I took a step back, feeling the door behind me. That S when the music box's melody began to play softly from within the house. Startled, I jerked around. The warm glow of the flashlight illuminated the edge of the living room, revealing the box sitting innocently on my desk again. The lid was slightly ajar. I hadn't touched it since slamming it shut. "Stop it," I whispered to myself, backing away slowly. The sound felt like a lure, trying to pull me back inside when all I wanted was to flee. But then, a voice emerged from the shadows. "Evelyn." It was a whisper, low and soft, like a gentle breeze. It sent shivers down my spine. "Tess?" I called, hope rising in my chest. I strained to see into the darkness. But the voice was not her familiar tone. It was distorted, almost too smooth, like it belonged to something else entirely. My pulse quickened. "Make a choice," it said, each word slicing through the stillness with an unnerving clarity. "What do you mean?" I asked, my voice wavering. I stepped back again, heart racing. "Where's Tess?" "Time is running out." The figure emerged, just beyond the trees, blurred and undefined. For an instant, I felt dread grip my insides. This was not the person I was searching for. Before I could say more, it lunged forward. Panic shot through me. I turned and stumbled back into the house, slamming the door shut. Breathless, I locked it, leaning against it as if that would hold whatever was outside at bay. I glanced back at the music box, the soft melody continuing to whisper through the darkness. I knew I needed to confront whatever was happening, but without Tess, I felt utterly lost. As I glanced around for a weapon, I noticed my phone on the desk. I snatched it up and hastily dialed Tess's number again. This time, a message echoed back, "The number you're calling is unavailable." Tension curled in my stomach. What was happening? Just then, a loud bang rattled the back door. "Let me in!" A voice came from the shadows, holding the same tone as the figure outside. And I knew deep down the night was far from over. The sound of pounding against the back door sent another wave of panic through me. I couldn't let whatever that was in. I moved quickly, holding my breath as I quietly shuffled across the living room. "Who are you?" I shouted, trying to sound brave. My voice shook despite my effort, echoing through the emptiness of the house. "What do you want?" No answer came, just a lingering tension in the air, heavy and suffocating. I reached for a kitchen knife from the drawer, feeling its cold steel against my palm. Was this enough to defend myself? I cursed under my breath for not having thought of it sooner. I stood still, listening. The rhythmic bang continued, relentless. It felt like a clock ticking down, counting my chances. I started to back away, eyeing the windows, but they were just as dark and foreboding as the door. Suddenly, there was a thud that sounded like it came from the front yard. I flinched, my heart racing even faster. I couldn't keep track of where the threat might be coming from. My mind raced with thoughts of Tess, wondering if she was okay, if she even knew I was in trouble. I pressed my back against the cool wall, contemplating my next move. Then I seemed to notice a change in the atmosphere, like the air was crackling with static. My flashlight flickered again, plunging the room into temporary darkness. The music box stopped playing. The sudden silence was suffocating. I swung around, my heart racing as I felt the weight of dread settle over me. Just when I thought I was ready to escape the house, a figure appeared at the living room window, pressing a hand against the glass. It was a woman. Tess looked back at me, her face pale and drawn. My heart lifted at the sight of her, but fear quickly replaced hope. Her eyes were wide, pleading. She mouthed something, but no sound escaped her lips. I stepped closer to the window, straining to hear. "Get away!" she finally shouted, her voice barely breaking through the barrier of glass. "He's here!" Before I could respond, the door behind me rattled violently. I recoiled, spinning back to watch the handle twist and shake as if something was trying to break in. A low, cold laugh echoed from the darkness outside, sending chills down my spine. "Let me in, Evelyn," the voice taunted, laced with an unfamiliar familiarity that froze me in place. "No!" I yelled, brandishing the knife in front of me. Every instinct told me to run, but a deeper part of me rooted me in place. Suddenly, the music box flickered back to life again, the sweet, haunting melody breaking the tension. I didn't understand how or why it continued to play. It felt like an omen, like something trying to communicate with me. As I turned back to the window, Tess was gone. I felt my stomach drop. Where had she gone? Was she safe? "Make a choice," that same voice whispered, clearer now, echoing from the shadows beyond the door. My pulse pounded in my ears as I tried to think. There were too many questions and not nearly enough answers. I didn't know what would happen next, but deep down, I knew the night had only just begun. I stood frozen in the dim light of my living room, the knife trembling in my grip as panic coursed through me. The voice outside, so taunting, so familiar, made my pulse thrum painfully in my ears. The door rattled again, louder this time, just as Tess's pleading face had vanished. I needed to act, but the uncertainty weighed like lead in my chest. "Evelyn," the voice whispered, like smoke curling through my thoughts. "You can't hide forever. Choose. Will you join us, or remain trapped in this place?" "Trapped," I echoed, incredulity threading through my shock. "What do you mean, trapped?" My gaze darted between the door and the window, hoping beyond hope that Tess would return, but the unnerving silence from outside pressed against me. I felt an urge rising within, like the shadows swirling around me were beckoning, urging me closer to the door. But I had to resist. Whatever lay beyond that threshold was waiting for me, and with every minute, the atmosphere grew thicker with dread. The music box continued its haunting melody, intertwining with the menace outside. Somehow, it felt like a lifeline, an anchor in a sea of chaos. I turned my attention back to it, suddenly grasping the significance of Lucy's words about connection. Was the music box the key to understanding what was happening? I took a deep breath, then lunged for the box. Thrumming with determination, I opened it once more, and the soft notes flowed into the room like rippling water. As the melody enveloped me, I felt a shift in the air, almost like a trance setting in. The shadows inched forward, closing in around me, but I focused on the tune, wading deeper into the memory it evoked. Help me remember, I whispered as the notes clarified into distinct phrases, echoes of laughter and familiar games flooding my mind. I couldn't be afraid. I had to understand what it meant. Suddenly, fragments of truth began to coalesce. Faces of children rested just out of view, hazy, familiar but fragmented, and then Lucy, laughing with wild abandon as she spun in circles. But beyond her joy, another image lurked, like a hidden dark current beneath the surface. I found myself standing in that ethereal garden once more, the vibrant colors pulsating around me. But this time I wasn't alone. Evelyn, Lucy's voice echoed softly, but she wasn't beside me. She was trapped within the shadows. The air shimmered as she wavered before me. You need to make a choice. It's our connection that binds us, but to break free, you must confront the dark. I felt a chill as the shadows writhed, dark fingers reaching toward me. What do you mean? What darkness? Follow the music, remember our games, fight the force pulling at us. Her silhouette flickered underneath pressure, becoming distorted. They are coming, but don't let them take you. Find the balance. Then, just like that, everything shifted. I was back in my living room, the sunlight filtering softly through the curtains, and yet everything felt different. I felt my surroundings pulse with an energy, a calling I could hardly comprehend. Panic still thrummed beneath the surface as I realized I was still holding the knife, a weapon against the unknown. What balance? I whispered, desperately wanting to understand. At that moment, the door shook again, louder, an urgent plea echoing in the chaos. Evelyn! Let me in! The voice was deeper now, a friend's tone twisted under layers of malice. Stop! I shouted. Which one of you is Lucy? Who is out there? The weight of the situation bore down on me, threatening to crush my resolve. I felt a swell of emotions, unanswered questions, desire to protect Tess, and a refusal to submit to this dark, silencing voice. I couldn't just let it in. The realization hit me, the threat wasn't just outside. It was within me too, in the memories, in the choices I hadn't fully faced. The music played on, its haunting melody persistent and rhythmic, crafting a connection between the past and the present. I needed to find that balance Lucy had spoken about. It was the key to confronting the shadows hold over both of us, to liberate ourselves from this dark pull. With newfound determination, I pressed my back against the door and collected my thoughts. The figure outside continued to confuse the line between reality and nightmare. I could feel the shadows pulling at my very essence, trying to integrate themselves into me. And I knew then that I had to face them head-on. I took one last look at the music box and whispered, I'll find you, Lucy. I turned on my heels, heart pounding fiercely in my chest, and prepared to confront whatever darkness lay coiled within the walls of my mind. I needed to remember everything, the laughter, the love, and even the fears. The door rattled one last time before I tore it open, stepping out into the abyss of night, where whispers mingled with the crisp air, urging me to discover the buried truths that lay in the shadows. I couldn't turn back. I wouldn't turn back. The night was only beginning, and I was ready to fight.